This is an interview for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project at Miles College on June 11th, 1996 at 2 p.m. with Mr. Cordell Gay. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you, Vinny?
I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. Are you from Birmingham?
Yes, I am.
Uh-huh. What section of the city were you born?
I was born in the East Birmingham area, which is no longer in existence at this time because of the East Birmingham area is there. But now I think it's becoming a park at this time because of, I think, the flooding and everything that devastated the area, and the people were relocated from that area.
Okay. And but during that time you lived in the East Birmingham section?
Yes, I lived in the East Birmingham area.
You have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have. There were seven of us. You know, there were eight. There were seven of us that are existing now. Okay, we had one brother who demised at a younger age.
Okay, big family.
Yes,
big family.
Yes.
Where'd you go to grade school, elementary school?
Well, I attended Shields Elementary School, which is no longer. You know, it's Shields. The building is still there. However, it is no longer in the administration of the educational field.
So it took your community and took your school.
Took everything. However, it didn't take the mind. And said our memories are still there.
What about those memories? What do you remember in that community where you lived?
Well, at that time, you know, there was a togetherness, okay, and we didn't know anything about what we call the drug infestation that is now in existence. And however, it was what we call a family neighborhood. Everyone knew everyone, and there were things that were done that just brought everyone together.
What kinds of things? And you said it was a together neighborhood and family oriented, you knew each other. What were some of the things that happened as you remember as a little boy? Okay,
when I speak of those type things, I'm saying that when one person hurt, there was always someone there to assist. Okay, people cared about each other at that time, and you know, if there was someone in need, someone would help that family or that individual, whatever the need may be. And however, now at this particular time, it seemed like that closeness that everybody seemed to be a one-on-one thing. You go your way, I go mine, and it takes away that personal touch, that personal caring about one another, and I don't think it's existing today, but that was one of the most important things. And then you had people that would assist in trying to, I'll say, raise an individual, although I was not one of those that didn't have a father or a mother. I was not one of those single family children at that particular time, whereas today, you know, you have a lot of single families, and then, see, that was not prevalent in our neighborhoods at that time.
When you talk about, again, togetherness and family-oriented, where do you come in terms of the family? Are you the oldest, the youngest, in between?
I'm one of the in-between.
Okay.
Third down, you know?
Okay. But you can remember yourself as at what age? 4 or 5, 8?
Yeah, approximately around those, at a younger age, because when I spoke of concerning the death of my brother, who I'll say died in an early age through a drowning incident, I think he was around 7 at that time, and I was 5.
So you remember that?
Yes, I remember that, yes.
So if you can reach back, tell me what you remember about that as it relates to communities coming together to help out. Well, what do you remember about that particular day or evening?
Well, you know, as being a young individual at that particular time, those things were, I wouldn't say smooth over, but they were brought to the younger people gently, whereas your younger brother or your older brother, you would not be seeing that brother again in this lifetime.
So that's what you remember somebody saying,
yes,
brothers?
Yes, and that, you know, he will no longer be in existence. So you really don't understand the impact of that. However, in the long run, through the years later, we learned that that's what it meant as you grow older. You know.
What about the people in the community? Do you recall being involved, the neighborhood and your family in church and Sunday school and doing different things?
Yes, that was a major part of the community. The church was the focal point of the neighborhood. I mean, what you had there, you had they played baseball and what have you, which was for recreational activities. However, the church was the focal point where everybody attended church. If you didn't attend church, someone would wonder, wait, why these people don't, attend church?
Something's wrong with you. Huh?
Yes. So that was the recreational facility along with the outside recreation. However, the church was it. Choir rehearsal, ushering, all of that was the end.
So you went to Shields School,
Yes.
and then after you left Shields, what school did you attend?
We attended Hayes High School.
Do you recall between Shields and Hayes in the community where you lived anything about people of other cultures? Was it an all-black neighborhood? Were there white people or Caucasian people in that community? And were the police visible?
Well, yes. In that neighborhood, when we speak about the culture was there that there was the people that owned the stores. Okay.
Do you remember who?
They were Caucasian, I would say Italian Americans, today is considered, Caucasian. However, what we're saying is the fact there were also the, I'll say Caucasian European, Americans who lived, I would say, at a line when the black community went so far, and then there was maybe an end of a street. And on the other side of that street, which might have been blocked off by a railroad track or by a bush, then you came into the Caucasian community, yes.
When you said the stores in the community, was it like a neighborhood store and the Italians ran that store and did their children work in there, and did you and your brothers and sisters interact or play with them?
Yes, at that time, yes, that's what they were, neighborhood stores, and their children, they would play with us in the neighborhood. However, I don't recall them attending the same school. They attended other schools.
But you remember playing with some kids that were of another culture?
Yes, we sure did.
Did your parents ever say anything to you that you don't do this or you do that, or they can't come home with you, you can't go home with them? Do you remember any of that at all?
No, that never happened. The parents never stated anything to that effect because I guess we understood that everybody was one at that particular time. We didn't know, I guess, being small and ignorant of the socializing among races was not they didn't have an impact at that particular time. So we were not familiar with that.
What about police officers? Were they visible in your neighborhood? Was there ever, do you recall any crime, or did they just kind of ride around in the neighborhoods, or they didn't? Well,
the police officers that roamed or drove through the neighborhood, they were all Caucasian. There were no minority, or should I say black, police officers at that time. Violence, not very much violence occurred. Shootings and things of that nature. It was not, you didn't hear too much about that. Maybe an altercation or stabbing or something like that. It was a weekend thing.
So occasionally things happen, but more so on the weekend.
Yes, yes, on the weekend. I think the black individuals worked so hard during the week until, I guess, the weekend, when that arrived, I think they began to ventilate.
Because they're working too hard, huh?
Yes, of course, something of that nature.
How did you find out anything about the movement? Did you know about it because of attending church, and where did your family go to church at that time?
We attended 46th Street Baptist Church, which was located, which is, like I said, no more existent in that area. However, the church is still in existence.
Sure.
Okay. At that time, you went to church, and the church was also, at that time, a political, I'll say, spring point for a lot of the civil rights activity that had taken place. And I think my father was very active in the civil rights movement. And I would say he was a very, should I say, forceful person who, I'll say, just didn't take no for an answer.
What do you recall about him? You said he was involved, a very forceful person as it relates to the movement. What do you recall about your dad and the movement?
Right. Well, what I recall about him most is the fact that I think he had worked at several jobs, and he was terminated from several jobs because of his vocal, perception of his speaking out and his vocal, verbalizing the fact that the injustice that exists on jobs and in the area, whereas blacks were mistreated.
Do you recall any particular situations, overhearing your parents talking, that your dad may have come home one day and says, well, yeah, they let me go because of whatever, or do you?
No, because I think they insulated us from all of that at the time. But however, being, I say, blessed with the ability to think, you knew something was, going on at that particular time, but they more or less insulated you from the hardship that was, I say, was about to take place, or those type of things. Mm-hmm.
Do you recall whether or not, with 7 or 8 kids and your dad working, but sometimes may have been for a short period of time out of work, do you recall whether your parents were considered poor or rich or average?
At that time, everybody was considered poor.
Okay.
So yes, I mean, I think everybody was struggling to survive at those in those times. If you had a place that you could live in, shelter, and had food to eat, I think that was probably the most, I'll say, highlights of our lives when we had the survival. I don't ever remember going hungry, as I recall. I don't ever remember being without shelter.
Okay.
So I think it was the art of survival that so many of the black Americans at that particular time had to go through. And one, like I said, goes back to what I said earlier. When people cared about one another, they shared so that the other could continue to survive as well.
Do you remember whether your dad was involved with the SCLC or anything like that during the WCP during that time? Yes,
I remember that time. Some of the things that I remember is that during the time the Shuttlesworth,
Fred Shuttlesworth?
His home where it was bombed, and the gentleman, you overhear these conversations, they were talking about we have to be a security around this leader's home 24 hours a day, and how different ones would go in shifts and be a lookout for those that were attempting to be destructive as far as this leader is concerned.
So when those kinds of conversations took place, and your dad may have been talking with somebody, your mom, did they tell the kids, well, you kids are going upstairs now, these are adults talking, or did they talk in front of you thinking that, well, they won't pay any attention because they're kids?
Okay, well, these type of communications didn't take place, I would say, in our home. Okay. They would take place at the church. Okay. Which was the meeting place, plannings would take place there for the next, I'll say, tactic they would take to try to help, in the communities and things like that.
Were you frightened by any of the activities when you would hear or be at the church and then have the meetings? Didn't frighten you at all, and particularly when you said you were familiar with, or you remember the bombing of the house being set fire, whatever?
Well, I think when I reached back into the archives, I think the fact we were just as children too ignorant to know what death was all about. It didn't bother us at that particular time. We knew that something was going on, a transformation in the community and say in the area was taking place. However, I don't think we were intelligent enough to appreciate the change at that time.
What about your older sisters or brothers? Did they get involved too? Did they go to some of the meetings?
Yes, they got involved about as much as I did, but we always had our ears open, to see could we be able to discern, disseminate what's going on. You see.
So now you're in high school. How did you know Reverend King? Did you meet him, or did you get involved with any of the sit-ins or in the park, whatever?
Yes. Now that had taken place later on in the high school. This is where it started in the 1960s. The fact is, there was this minister who came on the campus at Hayes High School at that particular time.
Do you remember his name?
Tony Cooper, I think.
Okay.
I think I remember that his name was Tony Cooper, and he was coercing a lot of the students to come on and leave. And I think we were apprehensive about leaving. However, we decided to go on. And at that time, we said, everybody else is leaving from all other schools. We're going to leave too.
Did you not think, well, if I leave, I may go to jail, or if I don't go to jail, my mom and my dad find out I'm going to be in big trouble?
Yeah. Well, at that time when he stated that, and on the TV and radio, all these things were taking place, that what is going to happen, that I think the racism was so embedded in the communities and things, that something had to be done. And remember that we had grown older now. We were in the high school level, and that we were able to think and to read and to try to understand what was going on. And I would reach back and pull up some of those thoughts about my father and others who were, guarding these civil rights leaders and those that were marching. And these things came into focus and said that we needed to assist in this thing. So I felt the necessity, that inner necessity
the urge to just do it.
Yeah, it's something in you that, that you can't fight. You want to go out and get involved in.
What about the park? Did you ever experience being in Keller Ingram Park and the hoses, or?
Well, I experienced that, feasibly on my third or fourth outing, as I recall. When I speak of outings, we're speaking outings when the meetings would go on at the 16th Street Baptist Church, and they would direct you, well, this group is to go that way, this group is to go that way. There were about 4 or 5 different directions we were given, but we were given those in groups.
Why were they giving you directions to go in different directions?
Well, why I think that happened is because you could be more effective.
Okay.
If everyone went in one area, that would, you can surround that area. But if everyone went in about 4 or 5 different areas, that means that they would have to put people in all those areas, and we knew that they didn't have the manpower to do so. So this is why, we...
You said that you and some of the students who walked off the campus, you walked downtown to the church, and you got a chance to meet Reverend King, Martin Luther King Jr.? Yes.
Dr. King at that time, he was one of the major directors there, and he was an inspiration builder. I mean, this gentleman had charisma. It looked like he was just dumping fire into you himself.
So about what age were you when you met him, and what did you...
I think I was around 15 or 16 at that particular time.
So when you saw him, what did you think? I mean, were you just in awe and said, wow, or what did you think?
Well, what came to my mind is that this person is a dynamic speaker. And he also had Andy Young and this Bivens gentleman with him at this time, and a few more of those civil rights leaders. And I knew that he was trying to get more and more people involved, and seemingly to me that there were not enough adults. And later you learn that the adults were making the finances, for you to continue what you were doing. And the young people who had the energy to, walk and, jump out there from now on.
Yeah, and two
was a good move.
And two, I guess you found out, and as some adults have said at that time, the reason they were not out front was because they had to work, and had they gone out, maybe some would have lost their jobs, you think?
This is true. That is a very intricate factor in the lives of that movement at the time. This was very important. Somebody had to continue to pay the bills. Somebody had to support the movement. No jobs, no money to support it.
Did you ever feel the brunt of the water hoses or go to jail or anything?
Yes, this occurred, like I prior to stated, that this occurred on my third time out.
So what was the first time? What happened? Let's go back.
Let's go back to the first time. The first time we were there on, it was the 20th Street and 2nd Avenue.
Okay.
That was the first group I had gone out with, and we were instructed that if you were approached and stopped by the police officer, they said kneel down and pray. Okay, we went there, and we were stopped as stated by the leaders. And when we were stopped, we kneeled down. We had this minister who was leading us. It was about maybe 20 in this particular group, and we knelt down to pray and said, "Wait a minute, I'm kneeling down with him." I said, "Well, I don't know what to pray about." So I just got down with him the same. So at that time, we were carted away in today what we call a paddy wagon, and we were taken. I thought we were going to jail. However, we did not go to jail.
Where'd they take you?
They between downtown and the jail on the south side. They stated, "Well, look here. If we don't, we'll let you out if you don't go back in March."
So what'd you say?
And everybody said, "Yeah, right."
Tell them anything, huh?
Yeah. So they released us.
Okay. So that's time number one.
Yeah.
And then what happened after that?
After that, we went back to the church. After they released us on the south side, we went back to the church, 16th Street, and got new instructions. And the instruction the next day we would attack another area. Okay. Somebody else would go to our area. Okay. And we would go to another area.
So you did that?
Right. We did that, and it looked like seemingly it was a repetition of the same thing, but we were not stopped. We were, directed to follow a certain path at that time, so we were not arrested that time.
And time number three.
And time number three. That's the time when we set out in groups that time, and I'll say like 50 to 100, and we were going down 6th Avenue from 16th Street Baptist Church. And as we was going, east on 6th Avenue from 16th Street, that is when I felt my first impact of the strength of a water hose.
How powerful was it?
That thing was extremely powerful. Right. And we were young kids at the time. We probably weighed about 130 pounds. I mean, it hit us and just knocked us everywhere. And everybody grabbed each other to try to hold on. And it was.
Were you hurt?
No, I was not one of those that were injured. But if you would look around, you could see the others that were injured. Scratched elbows, knees, clothes torn. So. That was one of my first. Yeah, yes, I definitely was, because you never hit. I never been hit with a water hose. I imagine none of the others had been. Such power that thing have. I didn't know it had that much power.
What about jail? Were you ever?
Well, yes, that was about on the fourth time I was incarcerated. I was incarcerated.
Really involved with this thing, huh?
Incarcerated. At that time, and they incarcerated us at the 6th Avenue facility over there.
How long were you?
I stayed there about 4 days. It's 4 days.
How was it?
It wasn't good.
Do you remember?
It wasn't good because there were so many there that I felt we all were there for the same purpose, and I felt that if they could endure the length of time that we're there, I felt that I could endure it too as well.
What did your parents say?
Well, I think they were proud of me. That one of those that had the mental thought, the mental energy to want to get out there and do something that would help our people. And that's what I think
Do you have
is important.
You have children?
Yes. I
Have
do.
you ever talked with them about what happened to you during that time, and or come through the Civil Rights Institute and say, yes, I was there and I was a part of this?
Yes, I think they have visited the Civil Rights Institution, several times. Several times they visited. And I think at this point, I think for one to appreciate those events and to appreciate that part of history, you can look at it and see the incidents and those things that occurred on the movies and things. But I say the personal experience, I say, is the greater appreciation.
Sure.
You know?
I would imagine when you've talked about it with them, it's, oh, Dad, you weren't there. That was in the olden days, and those things didn't really happen. But then when they see that their father, you're part of history, you've made history.
Right. Well, they realize that it happened because it's something that you continue to expound on, as they were growing up, the things that occurred. And the fact is, you tell them again and again to never allow it to happen again. These things happen, and you as a young minority individual, you must know your history. And as far as the history is concerned, you see what happened back then. And as you grow older, you are not to allow it to happen again. And by doing that, you strive for infinite, upward mobility.
Well, what about that when you have gone through the Institute? Has it brought back memories of when you participated in different things, and how did
Yes.
it affect you?
Well, in several ways that it affected me, due to the fact that some of the friends that I had met during this struggle, that were with me at that particular time, the Institute was completed after their demise, and I wish that they could be there to see it and to reminisce together with me.
What about the movement, in your opinion? What did you think of it like then? What do you think of it now?
Well, I think then it was a very good project. It was very well engineered by those that was the engineers of the movement at that particular time. Now, I think that there is a lot of subtleness as far as wanting to get out and demonstrate in the streets. However, we are more, we can articulate things obviously much better now. And I think we try to do it in a manner of the legal. We take it to court. We, in the process of taking these things to court, you get some satisfaction. However, the satisfaction, I think, will never be completed in our community until racism is totally eradicated, and I don't think that would be in your lifetime. But I feel that the struggle is still going on, and we must still ventilate our objections to racism that exists.
For the movement today, do you think it is as effective? You said in a subtle way things occur, and seemingly that we do things in a legal way as opposed to, in a broader sense, marching and demonstrating as much then. So do you think the movement is as effective and as many people are involved that should be?
Well, no, I don't think as many people that should be involved are involved. No, I think that you gain these rights or these privileges through the demonstrations. Through you weren't going to take that anymore. Okay. Now, if you gained it then through your demonstrations, through your boycotts, I think these things should be, that same strategy can work today. However, what is the motivating factor for one to get out there and demonstrate now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the motivating factor is you didn't have. Now you do have. Now, what strategies can be implemented to motivate an individual to seek the civil rights? I mean, they can't say that I have it. You may have it, but you don't. You may have it. You may think you have it, but you don't have it. Okay, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. What would you say in closing? What challenge would you offer to all of us who are those people who are not involved that you'd like to leave with us today?
The greater challenge, I feel, that is one should never accept no for the answer. One should never accept the fact that I cannot achieve this because of my color. Okay, they should never do that, and they should always strive for the best. For the best.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing with us today.
Thank you very much too, Ms. Miles. All right.
And there was day and there was night.